Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. Backstage news on WWE talents discussing Sasha Banks' reported release. During Friday's SmackDown tapings in Minneapolis, Minnesota, several WWE talents were reportedly speaking openly backstage, believing that Sasha Banks had been released from the company. According to Fightful Select, the talents have still not been informed in any official capacity if the reports of Banks' release are legitimate. However, the talents reference, quote, would be in the position to know, end quote, if Banks had been released, Fightful's reports added, indicating that said talents are good friends with the boss. Following Raj Giri's report of Banks' release last Friday, WrestleVotes also reported that Banks had been released from her WWE contract. While Fightful Select and McMahon's podcast didn't confirm the reports of the release, they noted that Banks' attorneys were working with WWE to finalize the same. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer echoed these reports later. On Sunday, Reddit user Kermit, who has been credited for breaking several stories, including Cody Rhodes' being WWE bound, claimed that Banks was released, quote, weeks ago from her contract. WWE has yet to comment on the report, which includes not issuing any denial. As noted previously, WWE digitally removed a fan sign that read, quote, Sasha Crew for Life following SmackDown last Friday. You can see the shots on social media. Banks and Naomi staged a walkout from WWE during the May 16 Raw and were subsequently handed out indefinite suspensions without pay. WWE has removed all references to the two superstars from their TV graphic intro, deleted their Facebook pages, and pulled their merchandise from WWE Shop. According to several reports, both superstars are on expiring contracts, and Naomi was actually negotiating a new deal shortly before her walkout. Backstage atmosphere at WWE SmackDown, Vince McMahon's mood. As noted, Vince McMahon stepped down as chairman and CEO of WWE last week after allegations were made surrounding an affair he had with a former employee. It was claimed that Vince raised the individual's salary during the time the misconduct was going on and then allegedly supplied hush money payments to her in an attempt to keep the situation quiet. The investigation has reportedly uncovered other non-disclosure agreements by former WWE employees claiming misconduct by not only McMahon but also head of talent relations John Laurinaitis. Fightful Select has reported on more backstage reactions to Vince McMahon kicking off last week's episode of WWE SmackDown. On SmackDown, talent told Fightful they were expecting a, quote, eventful day, though the show was a lot more relaxed than usual by the time it kicked off. Vince, quote, wasn't selling, end quote, the fact he was being investigated and was particularly jovial. Vince was said to be very hands-on on Friday, more than usual, which longtime staff members told Fightful they thought was McMahon's way of establishing that he is still running the show. As noted, Stephanie McMahon is taking over as interim chairwoman and CEO of WWE while her father steps down from the role. Vince will still be influencing creative decisions and attending shows with the company. The investigations are still ongoing at this time. WWE Raw superstars reportedly annoyed at long wait time before matches. Not many fans watching at home realize that WWE superstars, especially on the Raw brand, are routinely made to hang around in the ring for long periods prior to matches. While wrestlers camping out in the ring is customary, the new format of Raw has reportedly prolonged the wait time. Between the advertisements, video packages, interviews, and recap segments, the downtime between the starts of an entrance to the beginning of a match regularly exceeds 15 minutes these days, especially for Raw main events. However, the near 20-minute gap for the May 30 Raw main event between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan seemed particularly egregious. According to Fightful Select, a lot of the WWE superstars dislike the new norm of hanging around for long periods and have conveyed their complaints to WWE higher-ups. Fightful reached out to several superstars who had been subjected to the waits over the last year. The wrestlers were reportedly told that the TV show's format, quote, was what it was, end quote, and it was intended to, quote, improve the show flow. When one talent was asked what they did during the wait time, they said, quote, talk to the crowd, dance, get annoyed that I'm waiting that long, end quote. During the aforementioned Raw main event, Morgan stood in the ring for 19 minutes prior to her match against Ripley, according to fans in the Wells Fargo Center in Des Moines, Iowa. During the break, WWE on USA Network cut to a commercial break, played a Memorial Day package, and also showed a promo to build up to the Hell in a Cell premium live event. Speaking of the Red brand, WWE has announced a singles match between Asuka and Becky Lynch for Monday's Raw, with Money in the Bank implications. The winner of the match will qualify for next month's Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. As noted previously, fans will also get to walk with Elias for the first time in over 1 year. Backstage news on nixed plans for WWE Raw main event. There was initially a different pitch for the main event pose-down segment featuring United States Champion Theory and Bobby Lashley on last week's Raw, according to Fightful Select. The report noted that plans were in place for R-Truth to get involved in the segment, and several materials were brought to the show for him to use as comedic relief. With the R-Truth plans nixed, the Theory Invitational Pose-Down Challenge began with WWE official Adam Pearce introducing Theory and then Lashley. After both physical specimens flexed atop the podium, Theory polled the fans to judge the winner, only to be ticked off by the verdict. Theory would spray baby oil in Lashley's eyes before drop-kicking the Almighty to the outside. The show ended with Theory taking selfies on top of the podium as fans in Wichita, Kansas reacted with loud boos. Backstage news on Bryan Danielson's AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door status. Bryan Danielson was not medically cleared to compete as of last Wednesday, according to Dave Meltzer on the latest edition of Wrestling Observer Radio. The Blackpool Combat Club member has not competed since the Anarchy at the Arena match at AEW's Double or Nothing, despite the fact it was originally reported he would only be out of action for 1 to 2 weeks. That has not been the case, but recent weeks have seen several teases for a potential match between Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door. The match has reportedly been planned for the event between the two men, but it is now all down to whether or not the former WWE superstar will be medically cleared in time to compete. The issue took place at some points in the match at AEW's most recent pay-per-view, but it is yet to be revealed exactly as to what the problem is. After New Japan Pro Wrestling's Dominion event, Sabre Jr. took the time to call out Danielson for the upcoming cross-promoted pay-per-view, which got the wrestling world talking. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.